Live from Marib, this is the news from SABA satellite channel. Here are tonight's top stories. President Al-Alimi says Yemen is ready to restore the state and secure lasting peace. PLC member Al-Arada calls for stronger international action against Houthi escalation. Armed forces repel Houthi attacks across Red Sea and front lines. Welcome back. In our top story tonight, President of the Presidential Leadership Council, Dr. Rashad Al-Alimi, held an expanded meeting with leaders and representatives of official and local media institutions. President Al-Alimi outlined how the international perception of the Yemeni cause has changed and why the Houthi militia is no longer viewed simply as party to the political dispute.
There was also an international view that the Yemeni issue was essentially a political dispute, and that the Houthi militia could be contained, and that a political agreement could eventually be reached with them. The international community as a whole viewed the Yemeni issue primarily as a humanitarian crisis. The international bet, as you all know, was on accommodating the Houthis within a traditional settlement through the incentives that had been offered to the Houthi militia over the 10 years since their coup against the national consensus in 2014. We acted responsibly in dealing with the truce and made many concessions. Today, there has been an extraordinary and unprecedented shift in the international community's view of this terrorist militia. As a result of its conduct and practices, it has exposed itself before the entire world, and we have reached the stage where the group has been designated as a terrorist Houthi militia by the United States and some other countries. We are now working to secure its designation by other countries as well, foremost among them the European Union. Its terrorist practices have dispelled the illusions held by the international community that this group could be a partner for peace. It has become clear that it is not a peace project at all, but is beholden to an external Iranian project linked to a long-term strategic investment undertaken by Iran since the 1980s. The strategic objective was to reach and control the...
Turning to the military and political track, President Al-Alimi stresses that Yemen is seeking lasting peace, not another temporary truce, and that sustainable peace requires a strong and unified state.
Today we can say that there are armed forces, Yemeni armed forces, operating under a unified command and control structure, under the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces and the Supreme Military Committee. These forces are now ready to fulfill their role in defending the Yemeni people, protecting their facilities, and safeguarding their national institutions. Our strategic objective is to work toward restoring state institutions and ending the coup. This does not mean that we are advocates of war. We say that we are advocates of peace. But there is no contradiction between the deterrence we are exercising today against the Houthi militia and peace. Peace must be backed by strength capable of enforcing it. Through our 10-year experience with the Houthi militia, every truce has consistently served as a period for rebuilding its military capabilities and preparing to return to war. It is a project of war and destruction, not a project of peace, and we have fully understood this. Accordingly, we have made it clear that we are not seeking another truce, nor are we seeking another ceasefire agreement. We seek a lasting and sustainable peace. A lasting and sustainable peace means having a state that holds the exclusive authority over weapons, having no militias outside the state, having a constitution that governs society, and ensuring equality among all citizens. This is what we seek.
On the southern cause, President Al-Alimi reaffirms its legitimacy and calls for an inclusive political framework to address it without exclusion or marginalization.
We in the Presidential Leadership Council affirm that the southern issue is a legitimate political cause, arising from previous grievances and imbalances that accumulated over decades. The legitimate question is, why should we wait until the war ends before beginning to consider a solution to this issue? We have never postponed the southern issue. Therefore, I believe that we should begin now to establish a political framework for addressing the southern issue, as it is a legitimate cause for which we bear responsibility. I called for an intra-southern dialogue and asked our brothers in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to host it. Indeed, our brothers in Saudi Arabia extended the invitation, and the dialogue is now ongoing among Southern brothers representing all political components. We should put behind us the notion of exclusion or marginalization of any political component, or even any social component. We should work toward consensus among all political and social components, not only across the South and the areas to which the issue extends, but across Yemen as a whole. This is our position in the President.
President Al-Alimi also explains why Marib remains a primary target for the Houthi militia, highlighting its role as a stronghold of the Republic and the growing unity of Yemen's military fronts.
Why is the Houthi militia focusing on Marib? Marib is not a new target for the Houthis. Marib has been a target from the outset. Why? There are 2 or 3 main reasons. The first is that Marib stood against the coup from its first day. Consequently, the Houthis have sought revenge against it, and Marib has remained the stronghold of the Republic from that day to this day. The second is the unity of the fronts that has emerged today among all the various components. Today, the Marib front is not standing alone. When Marib and Hadramaut came under attack, the fronts in the west coast, Ta'id, Shabwa, Al-Dali', Al-Had, Usaymir, Dur al-Baha, and Hajjah responded. All the fronts rallied in support of Marib. This is the key development that we regard as significant for Marib today. There will be no action taken by the Houthis without response and without...
In Marib, member of the Presidential Leadership Council and Marib Governor Sultan Al-Arada held talks with the French ambassador to Yemen, Catherine Kamoun, on the latest political and military developments amid continued Houthi escalation. Al-Arada said Houthi attacks have expanded beyond the battlefield to systematically target civilians, displacement camps, and facilities vital to people's lives and the national economy, while also threatening maritime navigation and international trade. He urged the international community to adopt a clear position and stop treating Houthi attacks as isolated or temporary escalations, warning that continued inaction encourages the militia to further threaten Yemen and the region. For her part, Ambassador Kamoun reaffirmed France's support for Yemen's security and stability, commending the efforts of the Presidential Leadership Council and the Yemeni government, and stressed the importance of continued coordination on Yemen-related issues. In Mukalla, member of the Presidential Leadership Council and Hadramaut Governor Salim Al-Khanbashi met with UNESCO representative to Yemen, Nauno Lavera, to discuss protecting Hadramaut's cultural heritage and developing its archaeological sites. The talks reviewed UNESCO programs supporting the preservation of the governor's architectural and cultural heritage, including the rehabilitation of historic sites and efforts to promote them as a cultural and tourism destinations. Al-Khanbashi stressed the importance of moving beyond restoration towards sustainable cultural and tourism programs that benefit local communities, support traditional crafts, and create opportunities for young people in the heritage and tourism sectors. For his part, Lavera reaffirmed the organization's commitment to continued cooperation with Hadramaut authorities and support for preserving the governor's cultural and architectural heritage. In another meeting, Al-Khanbashi met with a UNFPA delegation led by a representative to Yemen, Francisco Guiltry, to review the fund's programs in the governorate and ways to expand them. Al-Khanbashi stressed the need for a gradual shift from emergency humanitarian response towards sustainable development programs, noting that Hadramaut faces a growing pressure on its services as it hosts large numbers of displaced people from across Yemen, as well as refugees from the Horn of Africa. He called for United Nations interventions to reflect Hadramaut's specific needs, particularly in healthcare, women's protection and empowerment, youth development, and community services, with a focus on projects that deliver sustainable development impact. For his part, Guiltry reaffirmed the fund's commitment to strengthen cooperation with local authorities and adapting its programs to local priorities and needs. In Aida, Minister of Water and Environment Tawfiq al-Sharjabi signed a cooperation agreement with international organization Muslim Hands to implement a water project in Marib city. The project is expected to benefit approximately 93,600 people, including displaced people and host communities, by improving access to clean and affordable water. It will also include technical training for local water teams to strengthen their capacity in well operation and maintenance and ensure the sustainability of the water system. Minister al-Sharjabi described the project as an important step towards strengthening Marib's water supply system and improving services for residents and displaced communities. In a broad military escalation, Yemeni forces have repelled Houthi attacks across the Red Sea and several front lines areas, destroying the threat. 3 Houthi boats loaded with explosives and thwarting attempt advances in Taiz and Shabwa. In the Red Sea, Yemeni naval forces and the Coast Guard destroyed 3 Houthi boats equipped for hostile operations and reportedly carrying explosives. 1 boat carrying equipment for launching drones was destroyed by the naval missile, killing 5 Houthis, while 2 other boats sent to the area were also destroyed before the planned operation could be carried out. In Taiz, Yemeni forces repelled Houthi attacks targeting military positions and civilian areas. Houthi shelling damaged a mosque and a school in Mawza'a district, while fighting also erupted on the northeastern front of Taiz city in the Haifan front, where government forces forced Houthi attackers to retreat. In Shabwa Defense Forces, SABA Axis and the 26th Brigade repelled Houthi infiltration attempts in Marib, Ain, Bayhan and Upper Markha, inflicting losses in personnel and equipment. In response, Yemeni drone carried out strikes on Houthi military positions as part of Operation Siham Shabwa. That was the news bulletin from SABA satellite channel from Marib. Thank you for watching and have a good time.